Hey, this is Frankie with Prairie Home Crafts. Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're solving a domestic crisis. And no, it's not that someone dared to touch the thermostat. Psychos. If you're like my family, you have a love-hate relationship with 1,000-piece puzzles. As in, we love doing them, but we hate that they commandeer our dining table for weeks at a time, becoming our primary dining companion. If you're like us, and haven't eaten a square meal off a flat surface in weeks, and are sick of picking puzzle pieces out of your meatloaf, well, today we're going to change that because we are building a rotating puzzle table. Or as I call it, a lazy Susan for nerds. It rotates, has 6 removable drawers for sorting, and handles to pick it up and hide it under the couch where it will live when you want your dining room or living room back. You can make this completely out of scrap wood, or if you want a fresh start, buy all the material for somewhere between $20 to $30. So, do me a favor, hit those like and subscribe buttons, and stick with me here as we puzzle this one out. I've got one of my hand-drawn plans here. It's drawn to scale, not because I'm fancy, but mostly because of my OCD, and thought I might need even more structure in my life. Oddly enough, I'm still going to review this for exactly 4 seconds before I ignore it and just kind of go for it. I'll leave a link in the description for you if you want to download a PDF copy of this, if you want to give this project a try. We'll revisit this later, but let's get to building. So we're going to start with 2 pieces of 24 by 48 hardboard. I'm ripping these both down to 24 by 30. For the top and the bottom of the puzzle board. The leftover will be used for the bottoms of the 6 drawers. So this stuff is basically compressed sawdust and the broken dreams of trees. If you breathe this stuff in, you'll probably be able to see the future, and the future just looks dusty. I bought this hardboard labeled as 24 by 48, which turns out that was more like a suggestion than an actual measurement. Turns out this board identifies as 23 7/8 by whatever. We'll make it work. And now for the bones. I'm using Select Pine 1x4s. These will be the internal supports that will create the 6 cavities where the drawers will fit. We're going to cut these all to length on the miter saw first, and then head back over to the table saw to get them to the right widths. Okay, we're back at the table saw now, and we are going to keep the sides of the drawer cavities at 1.5, but we are going to make the backs of the drawer cavities rip down to 3/4 of an inch, and then we'll deal with that middle one to make up for that 1/8 inch we lost just by buying a board. Here we are dry fitting these bones onto the bottom board, and my plan has that center rib at 1 inch wide, but as you can see, somewhere during the birth of that hardboard, math just lost the battle. So we'll make it up by shaving off 1/8 of an inch and just say that this project is sponsored by Close Enough. All right, looks good here. Looks like all the pieces fit, and we avoided a major plot twist. Now let's make some marks so that we can get these things glued into the right spot. Glue ups are like the only time I feel a true primal fear. Because if you don't move fast enough, the wood just kind of decides, I live here now, and that's it. They're not going to pay you rent or anything. So obviously it's a real sticky situation. Here's a pro tip. Don't scratch your head during a glue up. Yeah, think about that one. Next, we're going to build those 6 drawers. So welcome to the land of close enough is never close enough. I mean, come on, they're just boxes until they humble you. I mean, I thought I was an okay woodworker until I made some drawers, and nothing tests your patience like a drawer that almost closes. It's like a strange serendipitous relationship. You don't choose the drawer chooses you. In this case, we're going to cut all the drawer bottoms and dry fit them first. And measurement be darned if they don't fit. I'll just blame it on the store I got the hardboard from, or my tape measure, or my neighbor or something. And what do you know? They all fit perfectly. I mean, did you really think I'd put this part in the video if they weren't going to fit? For the drawer sides, I'm using some scrap plywood I had lying around. It's actually been in the corner so long it seemed like it was starting its own civilization. So I felt like it was time to get it away from the other scrap wood, or I might have to end up putting down a shop rebellion. I'm ripping this into 3/4 inch strips for the sides. Originally I had gone with 1 inch on the plan, but then I thought, just go with 3/4 inch for a little extra space. So I'm doing 45-degree miters for the corners. Why, you ask? Because why not forsake simple butt joints for something 10 times more frustrating, just for funsies? Now that we've got all our pieces cut, it's time to assemble these drawers. I'm only going to model how I put together one of the small drawers, but all 6 drawers went together the same way. Just a lot of glue, clamps, and particularized hope. So these clamps are about as useful as a screen door on a submarine, but I needed like 30 of them, and they're cheap, and they're all I've got. You know, when you're on a working man's budget with 5 mouths to feed, I'm surprised I didn't try to just do this with paper clips. It did the trick. And look at all those clamps. I know what the kids are getting in their stockings this year. All right. Next, we're going to make some custom T-bar handles. Pine, little hole, and a dowel. I could have just bought some handles and be done with it, but my middle name seems to be, but what if we also... I mean, you could just take the easy path if you want, but then you wouldn't get to add 60 miles, ford 2 rivers, and possibly die of dysentery. Drilling a 1/4 inch hole in a 1/2 inch piece of stock, we're rounding that top over using that 1/2 inch washer as a guide. If it gets a little burned, just hit it with some 120 sandpaper until you remove that burn to smooth it out. Then we're just going to cut it down to size using a miter box and a handsaw. I never quite cut it exactly on the line. I'll bring it back over to the sander to sand right down to the line so I can get each of these the exact length I like. While we're here, let's cut that dowel, which will end up being our T-bar handle. And here I'm just using a 150 grit sanding sponge to smooth out some of those hard edges on the end of the dowel. I get it started then by tapping it into the hole we drilled, then clamp it to the side of the workbench and tap it exactly where I want it to be so that it's even on both sides. Perfect. Now we just need to make 5 more just like it. After making 6 mini-me versions of the handle for the drawers, it's time to make the mom and dad handles. And then we'll have a proud family of handles. Mama, Papa, and the little knoblets. It's like daycare for hardware. We're going to go about creating these 2 larger handles the same way, except we have 3/4 inch wide stock by 1/2 inch thick. And we're going to drill a 1/2 inch hole through and use some 1/2 inch dowel. Quite a bit longer, I think about 4.5 inches, so that it could fit a human hand. Much easier to pick up things that human hands need to pick up, like a puzzle table. In this case, the penny worked perfect for rounding over the top. Sandy, 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 Sandy. Again, time to get a little more handy with the sandy. Use the sponge as well to smooth it out. And then we can take care of the dowel. I decided to make the dowel 4.5 inches wide so that there will be 2 inches of dowel sticking out either side of the T-bar. Here I'm cutting it slightly long in the miter box, and I'll just take it back over to the sanding disc and get it perfectly sized. We'll do the same procedure with the other stock that the dowel is going to be inserted into, and then we'll get it glued up. So for the 6 miniature handles, I didn't actually put any glue in there because it was such a tight fit, but this seemed a little looser, so I wanted to make sure that it nestled right in its spot and would never, ever move again. We'll see about that. I'll let you know in the future if it does move or not. Looking good. Okay, time to get back to those drawers and make sure they actually look good and fit. Those drawers are finicky business, kind of like fitted sheets, which is completely ironically named. You ever try to get a fitted sheet to actually fit on a mattress? It's like putting skinny jeans on after Thanksgiving. It's a futile act of embarrassment. So here, if you didn't get your miters perfect like I didn't, you know what? Just smash a little glue in there and run that 120 sander over it. And then I think I went down to 150 if there were any gaps left. And it ends up smoothing it out and filling it in really nicely. And of course, all the drawers fit perfectly. Who would have thunk it? Okay, now let's get those little handles on. This is the fun part. How did I do it? What amazing clamping method did I use to make sure these tiny little handles got clamped, screwed, and glued on here perfectly? I didn't. I just glued them on and left it. I mean, they're tiny drawers. You're not going to be pulling them with the force of a dump truck. So, yeah, they went on just fine. Got them flush, and I just let them sit. While we're waiting for all those tiny handles to dry, why don't we put the top onto our puzzle board here and see if we can get a nice snug fit. For this, I just put tons of glue on those bones, got it all in place, and dropped some weight on the top to make sure this actually stayed nice and glued. And to top it off, a bucket. Where did that nice bucket come from? Okay, now that the glue is dry, let's put those drawers back in and see how it looks. Not bad. Now we just put a nice little frame on the top, so as we're working on puzzles, those puzzles around the edges have somewhere to bank against, and the pieces just don't go flying right off the table. We don't want to lose any puzzle pieces. There's nothing worse than when you're trying to find the last few pieces of a 1,000-piece puzzle and you can't find them. Again, I used the remaining scraps of the 1x2s I had and ripped them to 1/4 inch thick, and then made miter joints out of them on the miter saw. And I'm just clamping them and gluing them together, and I'll do the same little trick on the corners if the miters don't fit perfectly. But they seem to be in pretty good shape. And those bazillion little green and black clamps I found are coming in handy again. All 30 billion of them. All right, doing a little bit of sanding on that border just to smooth it out, make it look nice. And then we're almost done with this. Now it's time to install those mama and papa handles to make it a whole, wholesome, happy handle household on this project. So measure and mark the very center. I'm going to drill through the top, and then we're actually going to come back through the bottom and countersink drill through the bottom. And what I'm going to attempt to do is glue the handle to the top, hold it in place with some clamps, while I then install a wood screw through the bottom. And this, you could see, was a bit of a struggle, but it ended up working out in the end. If there was a better way to do this, I would love to hear from you to explain it to me. I just kind of went for this, but it worked. It really did come out nice, so not so bad. So there we go. Did a little piloting into the bottom of the handle so I wouldn't split it, and then just drove that screw in place. It seems like it went crooked, but it was flush when I turned it back, so we made it work. Last but not least, the Lazy Susan. I found this thing on the Zon for like $8. Pretty good deal. It's got ball bearings in it, and it turns really smoothly. Because I have that giant piece of rib going right through the middle, I'm just going to put 2 screws right into that through the bottom, and that should keep this thing attached for years to come. Also, this thing came with little rubber feet already attached, which was nice. I'll put the link below in the description in case you wanted to get one of these. And there she is, the Lazy Susan Spinster 1000. It's level, it's smooth, and it's also 1,000% overkill. The hardest part of this build wasn't the measuring, cutting, joinery, or installing those tricky T-bar handles. I think it was actually putting this puzzle together up to the point that you see it displayed here. I think that actually is what took me the longest. But guess what? I haven't lost any pieces due to those handy dandy sorting drawers. So thanks for watching. If you like this build, hit the like and subscribe buttons and stay locked to all my future woodworking shenanigans. And I'll see you on the next one. Yeah, I don't know where I thought I was going to put this thing.